Namaskar. Now we will begin with the fifth lecture on the first module, Introduction to Sales and Distribution Management, for this particular course called Sales and Distribution Management. In this particular lecture, we will be talking about the skills required in sales managers and the qualities required in sales managers. We have discussed the roles, responsibilities, the functions of sales managers, of sales executives, and now we will be moving further to discuss those skills which are essential so as to be able to perform the duties, the responsibilities. So there are the sales managers and the sales executives must actually possess a skill set to be able to perform their roles and responsibilities either as sales managers or as sales executives. So what are those different skills required? What are the different qualities required for sales managers and for sales executives? So we will be talking about this. The different concepts which we will cover under this in this lecture are skills of successful sales managers, understanding selling skills, understanding qualities of sales managers. So we will be talking about the different skills which sales managers must possess to be successful. We will be talking about the selling skills, understanding the selling skills, different kinds of skills, and we will be also talking about the qualities of sales managers. So this is what we will cover in this particular lecture. So to begin with, what is a skill? Now, a skill may be defined as an ability to translate one's knowledge base into behavior so that it results in a desired performance. Now, each one of us possess skills of different kinds. Without we having those skills, we will not be able to translate our knowledge or our experience into behavior. So a skill here is one's ability to translate one's knowledge base into behavior so that it results in a desired performance. Now, as I said, all of us possess skills. Some of these skills are developed as a result of the genetic influence. Some of these skills develop because of the socialization process that we go through during our life, be it our childhood, our adolescence, or during adulthood. So we actually develop certain skills which during our school, during our college, or due to influence of our friends, our colleagues, and of course a major influence from our parents, we develop these skills. Now there are also certain skills which we develop because of training. We undergo certain kinds of training programs to develop these skills. Now whether these skills are acquired genetically or whether they are acquired as a part of the socialization process, with major socialization agents being our parents, our teachers, our social system, and the kind of impact that our friends and colleagues and the mass media has, or whether these skills develop as a result of training programs which we formal training programs which we undergo. These skills are essential so that we can actually translate our knowledge into the behavior, and so that it results in the desired performance. Now these skills can be divided into three categories: human skills, technical skills, and conceptual skills. So what are human skills, what are technical skills, and what are conceptual skills? This broad classification was provided by has been provided by different researchers from time to time, and we will see how these different skills help people translate their knowledge base into behavior. Now what are these skills? So we will start first with the technical skills. Now what is a technical skill? The technical skill here includes a knowledge and analytical ability to deal with customers' problems. It includes the knowledge and analytical ability to deal with customer problems, and it would involve delivering presentations, handling customer queries. Now this is in the context of marketing and sales. Otherwise, if we define a technical skill, it would relate to skills which we acquire as a result of our technical training and the educational qualification that we possess. So an engineer would have his technical skills if he specializes in mechanical engineering. So he has developed certain skills to deal with equipment, or to deal with gadgets, or to deal with so those will be his technical skills. But in the context of the sales force or the sales team, the technical skills would include the knowledge and analytical ability to deal with customers' problems, deliver presentations, handle customer queries. So sales managers must possess the technical knowledge to deal with customer problems. They should be able to explain the products, they should be able to make presentations, they should be able to deal with customer queries. They must have the capability to solve problems and help customers get rid of problem situations. As we have said earlier, a need recognition also means a problem to take care of or a problem to solve, and so the sales managers must show a path to the customers, whether actual or prospects. They must show them a path as to how a problem facing them can be resolved through a particular product. The product here acts as a solution to the problem that the customer is facing. The other technical skills for sales managers would also include the capability to convince the customers and clients to enter into a sale and effectively negotiate with them. Now this involves not only the human skill, but it also includes the technical skills, because to convert a prospective customer into an actual customer, the salesperson must possess the acumen, the technical knowledge. He must possess the acumen to be able to show how the product, how the technicalities in the product, how the product attributes or features in the product would help solve a problem or meet a particular need. Until and unless the sales manager or the salesperson possesses this technical know-how, he will not be able to have that confidence, and he will not be able to convince the customers and clients to enter into the sale. So sales managers must possess this technical know-how, because this technical know-how about the product would actually give them the confidence to deal with and deal with the customers or the clients, the prospective customers and the clients, and it would also give them the confidence to make presentations and handle queries and convert them from prospects to actuals. Sales managers must also be able to give training to their sales team. Now this training, especially in the case of the technical products or complex products, the sales manager here has to act as a coach, he has to act as a mentor, and he has to give on the job training to the sales team to understand products, to the product functioning, the product attributes, the product features, so that the sales team will be able to further gain knowledge and convince the customers or the clients or the prospects to buy or to enter the sale. So the sales manager must have the technical know-how, so that he can then also impart training to the sales managers. He must also have the ability to use computers, to use the latest technologies. Of course, today not knowing computers is something which is which cannot be thought of in any profession, but the sales manager must also be able to use the latest technologies, whether it is with respect to handling hardware or software, and he should be able to to actually work online, real time online all the time. Now second is the human skills. We also call them the people skills, and this is the ability to work with and through people, be it the superiors, the subordinates in the organization, be it channel partners, customers and clients. Now when we talk of human skills or people skills, it is actually interpersonal skills, but in the context of sales managers, as I said, it is the ability to work with and through other people, be it his superiors at the branch or at the zone, at the division or at the national level, or be it his subordinates at the branch level or in the field, and he should also be able to deal with the clients, prospective and actual. He should be existing, so he should be able to deal with both prospective clients as well as existing customers. He should also be able to deal with channel partners and other stakeholders. So they must have the ability to coordinate and maintain a team directed relationship. He must possess skills to motivate his team, to lead the members of his team. He should be able to communicate very effectively with them, give them the targets, show them the path about how to attain those targets, coach them, mentor them, and act as a constant companion to them. So here interpersonal skills are very, very important, and these are in fact one of the most important skills that the successful sales managers must have. In fact, as we will be discussing this later as well, he must be able to empathize with others in the organization. He must be able to empathize with his sales team. He must be able to empathize with the customers and clients. He must show huge amount of emotional balance, and he must be very high on emotional quotient. Third is with respect to conceptual skills. Now, conceptual skills here meaning where they would deal with understanding customer requirements, designing presentations, handling negotiations. Now, we have also discussed this in the technical part, and we have also discussed it as human skills, but conceptual skills here deals with more analyzing the problems or the kind of problems that customers are facing, and trying to deliver an offering or kind of make a presentation in a manner where the customer is able to realize that yes, my problem or is being perfectly understood by the sales manager and the sales team, and I would be getting a perfect solution to it. So, it is very important that sales managers understand customer requirements, and they customize their presentation, they showcase to the client a product which is which will help meet a need. So, it is more to do with a need benefit linkage. So, conceptual skills help sales managers understand customer specific requirement which can be met through their product. They help sales managers think strategically about how to understand the product offering as a need benefit and its relation to buyers. So, again what we are talking of a need benefit, prepare and deliver the sales presentation to relate to customers' need benefit, etc. So, they should be able to strategically understand the product offering as a need benefit and its relation to buyer's need, which again would meet a need benefit linkage, and prepare and deliver a sales presentation to relate to the customer's need benefit. So, conceptual skills also involve thinking and planning abilities. So, while we are talking about the planning and operating functions, we were talking about it in the previous sessions. Sales managers may not always be involved in strategic planning, but even if they are to implement the plans set forth by the top management, or even if they have to attain the targets at the branch level, yet it would involve planning skills, it would involve planning abilities, it would involve thinking and setting goals on and targets on a day-to-day basis. What is to be achieved, how is this to be achieved, how to this kind of allocate goals, how to allocate targets to the sales team, how to help them attain the targets and the goals at the territory. So, how to cater to customer specific problems, unique problems faced by customers, and how to showcase the product as a benefit or as a solution to a problem is all a part of conceptual skills. Now, sales managers, as the word goes, must manage, and managing here would involve planning, organizing, staffing, directing, controlling. So, if we look at these functions of management, and if we see that the sales managers also perform these managing skills, planning is to decide the most important course of action to achieve the objectives. So, as a planning role or as a planning function, the sales manager must decide what is the most appropriate course of action which will help achieve the objectives. So, it is setting while the broad plan has been laid out, chalking out targets to be achieved, on an annual basis or half yearly or quarterly or monthly, and how they are to be achieved is something which the sales manager will have to do. Organizing his resources, and matching it with the organization structure, territory management, allocating sales teams to various territories, sales force to various territories, and arranging for separate teams to deal with B2C, separate teams to deal with B2B scenarios is again an important function that they must perform, and they must have these skills to be able to understand who would be an ideal salesperson for the B2B or for the B2C, what should be the appropriate and adequate sales force size and mix. So these are again things which require skills and managing skills. While planning is important, it's essential that the sales team is controlled, because planning and control go together. They cannot be segregated, and they are in fact regarded as the Siamese twins. So establishing and measuring performance, what is the desired output goals and what are the actual objectives that have been achieved. So monitoring sales team's efforts or sales force efforts, and being able to control them, if in case the actual falls less than desired, is also a function which sales managers must perform, and this controlling again requires the managing skill. Also, they must take important decisions in their territories, in their branches, or at the zonal level, and so they must take crucial decisions which involves decision making skills. Decision making skills here would mean choosing the most appropriate course of action. So these are the different kinds of skills which successful sales managers must possess. Now, if we go a little more and talk about the selling skills, while we've talked about broadly spoken about the technical skills, the human skills and the conceptual skills, we could also explain these in terms of communication skills, listening skills, conflict management and resolution skills, negotiation skills and problem solving skills. So problem solving skills are those where the sales team or the sales executive understands the problem being faced by the client and tries to resolve that through his product offering and makes a presentation accordingly. Communication skills are extremely important. They are a part of the human skills. Not only should the salespeople be able to deliver, make good presentations and deliver the presentations in a good manner, but they should also have listening skills. Listening skills are important because that would give them an insight into being patient. They would be patient, and it would give them an insight into understanding customer needs and wants. So once the salesperson is patiently going to listen to the customer's requirement, he would be able to handle the problem or the situation at hand in a better manner. Negotiation skills are important where there are issues of with respect to pricing or delivery terms or longer payment terms, other such long-term contracts which are signed, especially in the case of B2B scenario. They require a lot of paperwork, lot of signing of agreements, etc. And over there, negotiating skills also becomes very, very important. Management and resolution skills are also essential, because when people work in a team, conflicts are bound to occur, and so the sales manager and the sales executive role is to try to resolve differences between members in the sales team. Also in case of cross territorying, where salespeople from one territory go and sell into another territory, which of course is again an issue of is something which is unethical. Yet in such cases, wherever there are conflicts, it's very important that the sales manager possesses conflict management and resolution skills, so that the team members or the various executives in the sales in the department or in the marketing department, or even with members in other departments, are able to cooperate with each other, collaborate with each other, coordinate with each other for the best of interests for the organization. Now, what are the personal characteristics required for building long-term relationships in sales? One is sales managers must show concern for their customers. They should show a lot of care, a lot of concern for their customers. So, they must empathize with their customers, whether it is a B2B or whether it is a B2C. And the feeling of concern, the feeling of care is something which will go a long way in not only converting a prospect into an actual, but it will also help maintain the actual with for long. So, it will lead to customer loyalty. It actually empathy leads to feeling of care, and concern and empathy would lead to customer satisfaction, thereby leading to loyalty and long-term relationships. So, they must be very kind to other people in the workplace. They must be kind to other sales team, other people in the sales team, in their branch, in other branches. They must have a huge, very high control on their emotions. So, emotional quotient has to be very, very, very high. In fact, one of the most important characteristics which salespeople must have is that they must be patient and be ready to be even insulted by their clients, because the problem here with the sales force is, as we discussed in the earlier sessions, that there is often a conflict of interest. Because they represent the company, they represent the customers as members of the society, they also represent the society at large. So, this kind of conflict of interest can sometimes put huge amount of pressure on them. It can lead to situations where the customer is extremely demanding, and even there could be a case where he is rude, a customer is rude and insults the sales team member or the sales force, but the salesman has no option but to keep quiet and smile. So, he must be he must have very high self control on emotions. He must be very patient dealing with customers and while dealing with customers and closing the sales team. So, the emotional quotient has to be very, very high. He should also follow behavioral ethics and moral standards. He must show integrity. He must also show happiness at workplace. Now, the sales team or the salespersons and the sales force are people who are under tremendous pressure. They have huge targets to attain. These targets are sometimes realistic, sometimes unrealistic. They have challenging environments. They have competitors who they have to deal with. They have demanding clients and customers. Salespeople have to travel distances, be away from family for long. They must travel a lot. They have to stay in conditions which are often adverse. They have to face all kinds of climatic conditions, whether it is hot summer or cold winter or rainy season, but yet they must maintain happiness while they are at work. So, they must actually depict very strong positive emotions and must make constant efforts to strive towards harmony in their relationships, whether this relationship is within the company with the sales team or with our people in other departments, or it is with the customers and the clients and with the dealers and distributors and other stakeholders. So, these are different personal characteristics which are required for building long-term relations in sales. Now, let us come to the qualities of sales managers. So, sales managers must be able to interpret exact functions and duties of a position with respect to attaining the objectives. They should be able to deal with superiors, with their subordinates. They must be able to work towards attainment of goals. They must be contributing to goal setting by giving feedback, by giving some inputs with respect to what sales estimates could be in the future, and in this way they could play a small role in goal setting, but the major role lies in attainments of sales targets. They must be able to earn sales for the company, profits for the company, and earn customer loyalty, customer satisfaction. They must be, they should, enter into long-term relationships, and CRM has to be a part of their day-to-day activities. The sales manager should also be able to lead the team, as a sales team. He should provide training to them and he should instill in them feeling of confidence confidence so that they can accomplish the assigned task with minimum supervision. He should provide them with autonomy. He should empower them. He should trust them. He should have confidence in them, and he should also be able to use time in the most effective manner. So these are different qualities of a sales manager. Now, as sales executives move to managerial positions, okay, there are other qualities which are required. So there are certain qualities required for a position of an area sales manager while selecting from a group of salespeople. So what we are trying to say is that when salespeople move or get promoted to as say area sales managers, they must possess certain other qualities and characteristics. So when people are to be considered for a promotion to a area sales manager level, what should be looked at, or what are qualities that have to be paid attention to? First, the salesperson must be able to work effectively with other team members. He should be able to work in a harmonious manner. He must be able to he should have very high people skills. He should be able to lead them. He should be able to motivate the other members. He should have good communication skills. He should be able to conduct the different selling activities very efficiently, whether it is developmental selling or whether it is service selling or whether it is CRM, and he must be very, very punctual in attending meetings or customer appointments. He should be an example for others to emulate. So he must be a good team. He must not only be a good team member, but he must have the ability to lead, motivate, guide, mentor the other team members. He should be able to be punctual, regular. He must be able to deal with clients effectively, because he has to be now moving from a salesperson's role to a sales manager's role, and so it's very essential that these qualities are present in him, so that he can be considered to be a sales manager. Now, again, so some more qualities which we can see which we can talk of is that the goals and objectives of the person would change. A sales manager, he would no longer be a team member, he would be a team leader, and as a sales manager he should try to fulfill the organization goals, because as a salesperson he was only trying to achieve his personal sales target. He was being constantly, he was being given his sales targets. He knew his appraisal would depend upon the individual attainment of those targets. But now as a sales manager, he has to see that individual targets of all of his team members are met, so that the organizational goals and objectives are met. So the goals and objectives change. Also the responsibilities change. The sales manager here is now responsible for the sales administration work. But in the case of as a salesperson, he was just concerned about selling. Now he is going to be not only taking care of he would be majorly taking care of the administrative role and trying to see that members in the sales force work as a team, and he should be able to guide them effectively. He should also be able to take care of all administrative functions at the office level, and he should be able to report to people at the division and at the corporate. So as we see, when his views and perspectives also have to change now. He must, a salesperson usually views his job as a set of activities which he must perform to achieve a sales target. But here, in the sales manager here has to move further. He has to achieve the sales and objectives or the targets of the enterprise, of the territory, of the sales team. So it's not something very micro at an individual level. It has to be something now or more macro at the territory level, which he must take care of. Also, there has to be a change in skills. A salesperson would require effective selling skills or negotiation skills or communication skills, but the sales manager here has to take care of planning function. He has to take care of the control function. He has to plan. He has to direct his sales team, lead them, motivate them, train them. He also has to assume, he now acts as an interface between the branch and the division or the the zone. So he has to report on his day-to-day functioning, on the day-to-day functioning of the salespeople in his territory. He has to also report on the attainment of goals on a real-time basis. So his role now becomes more administrative, more as a reporter, more as a as a coordinator, more as a leader, and more as a manager rather than a salesperson. Now, finally, we'll come to some qualities which are required in the case of industrial sellers, that is those who deal with the B2B scenarios. One is they have to be inclined towards buyer's benefit while dealing matters within the supplier firm. They should have a thorough knowledge and about the people's products line. They should have a sound market knowledge. They should be able to relate the product and service with the buyer's needs. They should also have thorough knowledge about the buyer's product lines, because he would be dealing with in a B2B scenario where he would be providing a raw material or components and parts which are further going to be transformed or assembled into another product by the customer or by the client. He should also have a very sound preparation for sales calls, and he should be able to have good communication and presentation skills. So, as a B2B seller, he has to be inclined towards the buyer's benefit while dealing within himself as a supplier firm. He should have a thorough knowledge about the buyer or the client, about the product lines or the product mix offered by the buyer. He should have a good information about how he can relate his product with the buyer's needs, and he should be good at sales presentations. He should have good communication skills, good presentation skills, negotiation skills, and he should be able to make a very sound preparation for sales calls. Now, this brings us to a conclusion of this lecture. The references are Still, Kandif, Govani and Puri, Sales and Distribution Management, Pearson; Havaldar and Kawale, Sales and Distribution Management, Tata McGraw-Hill; Panda and Sehdev, Sales and Distribution Management, Oxford University Press; and Futrell, Fundamentals of Selling, the McGraw-Hill Company. This brings us to an end of the 5th lecture on Introduction to Sales Management. This also brings us to an end of our first module on Introduction to Sales Management. So, we shall be beginning with the second module in the next lecture. Thank you.